The wind was cruel that morning, the kind of wind that didn't just brush past you but cut straight through whatever thin layers you wore. Emily huddled against the side of a boarded-up bookstore on 8th Avenue, her knees drawn to her chest. Her arms wrapped tightly around them. Her hoodie was 2 sizes too big and riddled with holes. It had been given to her at a church shelter months ago, and it was the warmest thing she owned. The cardboard sign in front of her read, in shaky black marker, "Trying to get back on my feet. Anything helps." She'd written it weeks ago, and the edges were now bent, soft from rain and snow. People passed by quickly, their boots clicking against the pavement, their eyes fixed straight ahead, as if looking at her might cost them something. Emily didn't hate them for it. She'd once been like them, always in a rush, avoiding eye contact with strangers on the street. But life had a way of flipping your world without warning. Her stomach grumbled, a dull ache that had been gnawing at her for 2 days. She had eaten half a granola bar the night before and saved the other half for later. But later never seemed to arrive. A bus roared past, sending a spray of dirty slush in her direction. She shivered, wiping at her face with her sleeve. That was when she saw it, just a few feet away. Lying half hidden near the curb. At first, she thought it was just another piece of trash. But the leather caught her eye. It was sleek, black, and looked expensive. Emily pushed herself up and shuffled toward it. A wallet. She bent down, picked it up, and instantly felt the weight of it in her hands. This wasn't just any wallet. She stepped back under the bookstore's awning, away from the wind, and slowly opened it. Her eyes widened. Inside was a thick wad of crisp $100 bills, not 1 or 2, but at least 40 of them. She quickly did the math. That was $4,000 in cash. There were also several platinum credit cards, each shining with a metallic gleam, and then she saw the ID card. Alexander Grant. She knew the name. Everyone in the city knew the name. Alexander Grant wasn't just rich, he was famous rich. CEO of Grant Global Industries, his face was on the cover of Fortune magazine, and his company sponsored the city's biggest charity, galas. Emily's breath caught. She looked back at the cash. $4,000. She could get a hot meal today, tomorrow, and every day for the next few months. She could get a cheap motel room, a clean bed, maybe even start looking for a part-time job without worrying about freezing to death every night. But the thought lasted only a moment before another memory hit her. The night she was robbed. She had been sleeping on the subway, clutching her backpack to her chest, when someone had slipped it away. Inside had been everything she owned, her ID, a spare sweater, and the only $5 bill she had. She remembered waking up to find it gone, the crushing panic in her chest, and the helplessness that followed. She closed the wallet and gripped it tightly in her hands. No, she whispered to herself, it's not mine. The right thing was obvious, the hard thing, but the right thing. She scanned the street. No one seemed to be looking for it. No frantic man in a suit checking his pockets. No car pulled over with hazard lights flashing. Emily took a deep breath, stuffed the wallet inside her hoodie to keep it safe, and stepped off the curb. She knew where Grant Global's headquarters was. She'd passed it before, on days when she wandered aimlessly to keep warm. It was a 20-minute walk from here, a towering glass building that seemed more like a castle than an office. As she walked, she felt the stares of people she passed, the usual mix of curiosity and avoidance. She clutched the wallet tighter. For the first time in months, she felt like she was carrying something valuable. And this time, she wouldn't lose it. The Grant Global building loomed ahead, its mirrored glass reflecting the pale winter sky. The revolving doors at the front spun constantly as people in tailored coats and shiny shoes hurried in and out. Emily's pulse quickened. She wasn't sure they'd even let her inside, but she had to try. She stepped into the lobby, a space of polished marble floors, towering ceilings, and sparkling chandelier. A sleek reception desk sat in the center, and behind it, a uniformed security guard looked up at her immediately. He gave her a quick once-over, her hoodie, ripped jeans, scuffed sneakers, and his eyes narrowed. "Can I help you?" "Yes," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. I found something. It belongs to Mr. Alexander Grant. I need to return it." The guard's brow furrowed. "Mr. Grant doesn't just meet people off the street." "I'm not asking to meet him," she said quickly. I want to give this back, please." The guard studied her for a moment, then leaned slightly toward the phone on his desk. "Wait here," he said, picking up the receiver. His voice was low as he spoke, and Emily caught only fragments. "Claims she found it. Says it's his." Her palms began to sweat. Part of her expected them to call the police, to accuse her of stealing it. But a moment later, the guard hung up and said, "Someone's coming down." Emily let out a slow breath. She didn't know if this was about to go very well, or very badly. Emily stood awkwardly in the middle of the grand lobby, shifting her weight from one foot to the other. She was keenly aware of the polished marble under her dirty sneakers and the faint smell of her worn hoodie in the warm air. People in sleek business suits glided past her, their briefcases swinging at their sides, their eyes briefly flicking toward her before darting away. Her mind was spinning. But if they think I stole it? What if they call the police? A sharp click of heels on marble caught her attention. A tall woman in a tailored navy suit approached, her blonde hair tied in a perfect chignon. Her face was professional, polite, but her eyes were cool, assessing Emily the way one might examine a suspicious package. "You found Mr. Grant's wallet?" the woman asked, stopping just in front of her. Emily swallowed hard and nodded. "Yes, ma'am. It was on the sidewalk, near 8th Avenue. The woman held out her hand. "May I see it?" Emily hesitated for a fraction of a second, then reached into her hoodie and pulled it out. The woman opened it, flipping through the contents quickly, her eyes catching on the neat stack of bills. The untouched cards, the ID. There was no change in her expression, but Emily could tell she had noticed that nothing was missing. The woman closed it, her movements precise. "Wait here." Emily watched her turn and walked toward the security desk, murmuring something to the guard. Then, without another word, she disappeared into one of the gold-paneled elevators. The lobby suddenly felt twice as big, and Emily twice as small. She stood there, fidgeting, trying to keep her shoulders back and her chin up. After what felt like 10 minutes, but was probably only 2, she heard a different set of footsteps. Slower, heavier, more deliberate. When she turned, her breath caught. A man in a dark charcoal suit, his presence almost magnetic, was walking toward her. His hair was silver at the temples, his jaw sharp, and his eyes, an intense steel gray, seemed to take in everything at once. Emily had seen that face in magazines and on TV interviews. Alexander Grant. He stopped in front of her, holding the wallet loosely in one hand. "You found this?" he asked, his voice deep and steady. "Yes, sir," Emily replied, her voice smaller than she intended. "It was just lying on the sidewalk." He tilted his head slightly. "And you didn't take anything?" Emily shook her head quickly. "No, sir. I know what it's like to lose everything. I couldn't do that to someone else." There was a pause, not an awkward one, but a deliberate silence where Alexander seemed to be weighing her words. Then, to her surprise, the corners of his mouth turned upward, just slightly. "Come with me," he said. Emily blinked. "Excuse me, there's a cafe across the street," he said, already turning toward the doors. "It's cold out. Let's talk somewhere warmer." The security guard raised an eyebrow, clearly not used to seeing the CEO personally escort strangers. Out of the building, Emily hesitated for a moment, then hurried after him. The revolving doors whooshing closed behind them. The cafe across the street was warm and inviting, its large front windows fogged from the heat inside. The air smelled of fresh espresso and baked bread. Emily hesitated in the doorway, stamping snow off her shoes, while Alexander walked straight to the counter with the quiet confidence of someone who never had to check prices. "2 coffees," he told the barista, "and whatever the house special sandwich is today, make that 2 as well." Emily started to protest. "You don't have to, I know," Alexander said, glancing back at her with a faint smile. "But you look like you could use something hot." She lowered her eyes, murmuring a soft thank you. They found a small table in the corner, away from the main bustle of customers. Alexander set the wallet down on the table between them, as if keeping it in sight was deliberate. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The hum of conversations, the hiss of the espresso machine, and the faint clink of cups filled the silence. Finally, Alexander leaned forward, his hands clasped loosely. "You know," he began, "most people in your position would have taken the money." Emily gave a short, almost bitter laugh. "Maybe, but then I wouldn't be me anymore." "Why not?" he asked. She looked up, meeting his eyes. "Because I know what it feels like to lose the last thing you have. When you've been there, you can't just do that to someone else." Their coffees arrived, steam curling from the cups. Alexander stirred his without adding sugar. Emily cupped hers in both hands, savoring the warmth. "Tell me your story," Alexander said after a sip. Emily hesitated, unsure how much to share with a man like him, but something about his tone, calm, patient, genuinely curious, loosened her guard. "I grew up in foster care," she began. "Moved around a lot. When I turned 18, they stopped paying for my housing, so I was on my own. I worked 2 jobs, diner, waitress, and cleaning offices at night. I managed to rent a little studio. It wasn't much, but it was mine." Her fingers tightened around the mug. "Then the diner closed. I couldn't keep up with rent on one job, lost the apartment. A friend let me crash for a while, but eventually I ran out of couches." Alexander's expression didn't change, but his eyes softened slightly. "It's not like I haven't tried," Emily added quickly, almost offensively. "But when you don't have an address, people don't take you seriously in interviews. You can't keep clean. You can't look the part." The sandwiches arrived, thick slices of bread stuffed with roast chicken, melted cheese, and greens. Emily hadn't realized how hungry she was until the first bite. She tried to eat slowly, but the flavor made her eyes sting. Alexander watched her, not with pity, but with a kind of thoughtful focus. When she was halfway through, he asked quietly, And yet you saw a wallet with more cash than most people make in a month, and you brought it here. Why? Emily met his gaze again, her voice steady. Because some things matter more than money. He sat back in his chair, studying her as if trying to measure the weight of her words. Interesting, he murmured. Very interesting. Emily took another careful sip of coffee, her fingers still wrapped tightly around the warm cup. Across from her, Alexander was quiet, his eyes studying her like he was piecing together a puzzle. You know, he began. I meet people every day, in meetings, at galas, in boardrooms, but very few make me stop and think. Emily let out a small, unsure laugh. I'm not sure if that's a compliment or it is, he said plainly, leaning forward. Most people show me their best mask. You didn't have one to put on. That's rare. She shifted uncomfortably. Compliments weren't something she knew how to take anymore. Alexander rested his forearms on the table. So here's the thing, Emily. I could say thank you and send you on your way. You'd walk out of here with nothing but a story about the time you returned to Billionaire's wallet, but his voice dropped just slightly, enough to draw her in. I'm not going to do that. Her brows drew together. What do you mean? I have a program through my foundation, he explained. It's designed for people who are starting over. We provide temporary housing, job placement, training. If you're willing to put in the effort, I can get you off the street for good. Emily stared at him. It sounded too good to be real, like one of those late-night TV scams where the fine print ruins you. Why me? She asked. Because, he said, you had every opportunity to take what wasn't yours. And you didn't. Integrity matters. More to me than a resume. She felt her heart pounding. Part of her wanted to say yes immediately. Another part warned her not to trust things that seemed too easy. What's the catch? She asked cautiously. Alexander's lips curved in two. The faintest smile. You'll have to prove to me that your honesty wasn't just a one-time thing. I don't invest in people who quit halfway. Emily tilted her head. And how exactly do I do that? He didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached into his jacket, pulled out a crisp envelope, and slid it across the table toward her. Inside is enough cash to get you through a week, food, clothes, bus fare. There's also an address. Go there tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock sharp. That's where we'll start. Emily placed her hand on the envelope but didn't open it. And if I don't show up, his eyes locked on hers, unblinking, then I'll assume you decided the street was good enough for you, and that will be the end of it. There was no threat in his voice, just certainty. She nodded slowly. Okay, I'll be there. Alexander stood, tucking his wallet back into his suit jacket. We'll see. Without another word, he left the cafe, his stride confident and purposeful. Emily sat there for a long moment, the envelope heavy in her hands, her mind spinning. Tomorrow could change everything, or it could be another dead end. She had no idea which